Okay. Let's see if this works. Da-da-da-da. Good. This is going to be kind of awkward because I cannot listen to you when I'm talking for the next minutes. But first of all, for those of you who are there already, hello, or as we say in Portuguese, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is in your place. And first, I'd really like to thank the opportunity to GCM. It's a true honor to be here and to talk to you a bit and to hopefully also listen from your concerns and from whatever you want to shout out and to ask. And what I'm going to do here is, as you can see, you are seeing me now, but there's a comment box on the YouTube page. If you want to put your comments, and I'm seeing already the chat over there. Yes, it works. Hi, hey, hello, and lol. And so if you have any question or if you want me to talk a little bit slower or something like that, please just chat over there and I'll make it work, okay? So first off, thank you very much for being on that side. And we had 39 signups from 28 countries. I guess I'm not sure if I ever talked to such a diverse audience on the other side. And I'm here to talk about this question, right? Like, are we enough? And for me personally, it's a big question. It's something that's always there. And what I feel like is that it's something that's it's very much more important, the question, than the right answer to that. And so when Courtney and Sarah told me, like, we would like you to provide a webinar on GCM, but you're free to choose your topic, I was like, okay, I have no idea what kind of topic or what kind of skill share should I have. And so I talked to some friends and they said, like, share something personal and share something from your experience. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing. Is from my experience, I understood that and preparing for this webinar, I understood that one key question was this: are we enough? Or sometimes it's, am I enough? Some other times it's, are we enough? And we'll go on that, if it's the we, if it's the I that matters for me or not. But what I'm going to do is briefly go through what I've done so far. I'm 25, and more than what I've done, to who I am, because I think that a lot of what I did really defines who I am, and a lot of the opportunities I had the privilege to be on really define who I am. And then just sharing some quick takeaways on my life, which sounds a lot like coaching or something, but let's try to make it not fluffy and to make it good in the end. And then also on your side, because I would really love for this to be a debate, but since this is a platform and I'm the one talking and you can only answer through the comments, if you have any question or if you want to intervene, in the end I'll make some questions for your side for you to take action on your own life, and I'll leave some space, like 10 minutes or so in the end, for Q&A. So if through the webinar I see if I see some questions there and I'm not answering straight away, don't worry, because I'll go back in the end of the webinar. And I see I have some people that I already know. So Gusti, there's Courtney, and for those who I know, I really send a big hug from Portugal, because I totally miss everyone from Global Changemakers that I knew. And for the rest of you guys, I'm totally sure that you are amazing people and amazing change makers. And so thank you so much for being here. So let's go for it. I see, sounds like a good plan. No questions so far. So if I speak too fast, also tell me. I'm also a little bit snotty, kind of going through a flu / cold / something. So I have my ginger tea and I have some carrots. So if I have to stop, don't worry too much. Just catching my breath and catching my medicines. So First off, when I tried to split my life into different stages, and the very first part of the question was, up until when I was 15, the question "Are we enough?" wasn't even there. Pretty much, I think that I was in a bubble. I think that I was in a place where I didn't know what was happening around, and by around I don't even mean the world, because of course I read books and I was interested in geography and all of this, but it's really what's the world like outside of my bubble. And I think that makes some sense because up until that time, 15, 16, 17, a lot of who we are is related to our parents and related to what we expect, what do our parents expect from us, and what we expect will please them and will make sense for our family and for the people that we have around. So we don't see a lot further from that. And by that time, we usually start going for something further and start to define our own identity. And for that, we explore a lot. And so up until when I was 15, I was the classical good student at school, always good grades, or almost always good grades. But the kind of person that, since I had a background with my parents and with my family, and I had so much privilege, it wasn't that much difficult to be good at school. Also because I wasn't starting from the same starting point as a lot of people that were in my same class. And I don't know, this is another question, but the idea of one size fits all for education, it's really something I'm not very much into, but that's what happens in Portugal. And that's what happened in my school. So if we have someone with a different background, it's exactly the same treatment as someone with more education or parents that can be with you a lot of time and go with you through the homework and everything. And so I was a good student. I was into Boy Scouts, although Boy Scouts are a lot into doing good. Back then, it wasn't so much about that. It was just about, for me personally, it was about being with friends, being outside, being in nature. And I see, looking backwards, that it was great for me to be there and to be in that place. Although I also see that the good part of what I was doing and the part of making an impact in true Boy Scouts wasn't so much explored and wasn't so much something that I was there for it. And I was also in athletics. I was always a sporty kind of guy. For football, I wasn't never good. I was never really good at football. Usually I was the goalkeeper since I was tall. I still am kind of tall. And in the end, what I loved to do was running. And I went through national championships doing cross. I went through track and field and a lot of different disciplines around athletics. And so my life was pretty much that. So I would study throughout the day. By the end of the day, I would have some kind of activities like going to athletics. And then in the weekend, I would have the contests for athletics. I would have some kind of run somewhere in Portugal. And I would also have the Boy Scouts. And sometimes I would go camping. Some other times it would just be an afternoon. But then when I was 15, and that's the pivotal point for trying to answer this question, I understood that my parents sent me to a summer camp. And back then it was my first summer camp. My vacations will be with family or with Boy Scouts or both. And that time they said, okay, Diogo, you are going for a summer camp in Portugal, where you'll have people from all over Europe. And I was like, yay, nice. Summer camp, girls, kind of stuff that a boy with 15 years old likes. And my parents are the ones to pay, so I don't even need to worry about anything. I just need to go there and have fun for 2 weeks. But then they had a catch. And what they said is, this is from people from all over Europe, but these are people from underprivileged communities or from disadvantaged communities. And specifically, the ones from Portugal were from a neighborhood that in Portugal is the kind of neighborhood that goes on the news where you hear that you have a lot of criminality or that people are stealing or that people are being shot or that kind of criminality that in Portugal, it's already like high rates of criminality. Of course, for other countries, that's a very low rate of atrocities that are being committed. But for Portuguese terms, the people that would represent Portugal in that summer camp, in that summer exchange, would all, except from me, be from this neighborhood. And the neighborhood is called Shellas, and it's like, my idea for a 15-year-old was, I'm going to get shot by a Portuguese person for sure. And so the whole idea of going for a summer camp with people that were so dangerous and from that kind of neighborhoods from all over Europe wasn't exactly the kind of perfect summer camp I was wanting to go to. And my parents, basically, they said, okay, this is 2 weeks. This is in Portugal. If by the end of the first week you don't like it, we'll just go there and pick you up. And I said, okay, I guess we have a deal. And for those 2 weeks, I had, for the first time, and although I had been in the Boy Scouts and although I had been in other experiences, for the first time I had real contact with a very different reality from my own. And for me, it was a pivotal point because I really understood that a lot of what I took for granted and a lot of what I didn't even value in life was so much worse, so much effort for other people. And for me, they were just effortless. They were just there. The idea of traveling abroad. My parents always took me abroad. For some of these people, they hadn't even ever went from Lisbon, which is the capital, to Porto, which is the second main city. Some of these people didn't know the city center in Lisbon. And this is just talking about traveling. Some of these people wouldn't have the same opportunities as I had of going to university. Some of these people wouldn't have the same opportunities as I had to have a good education. Some of these people wouldn't have the same opportunities as I had of having parents that will be there for anything and that will support you through your life, through your pains, to your everything you suffer from life. You'll always have these people there. And for them, and for a lot of them, this wasn't true at all. And a lot of things that I saw in these people as a 15-year-old, I understood, and my parents always told me that I had this ideal of justice. And for me, it was totally unfair. It didn't even make sense. Like, how the hell can someone don't have the same opportunities as me? How the hell do we have so many disparities? How the hell is there so much inequality? How the hell do these people live so close to me? And I mean physically close to me. And all I hear from them is someone was shot in their neighborhood. All I hear is that that's the worst place you can go in Lisbon. All I hear is that if you can avoid ever going there, that's what you're going to do if you're a white, privileged person like me. And for me, it was very, very interesting, these summer camps, because what happened is that afterwards I did these summer exchanges for 4 years. Then I started throughout my university. I also started volunteering for working in the neighborhood, in the Portuguese neighborhood. And up until today, I still have friends from there. And it's very, very interesting for me. And by interesting, I don't mean it's a good thing, but it's very interesting for me to understand that there are so much differences and we are so close and yet so far in so many things. Like, the other way around was also true. They will think that if my parents have 2 cars, then I should live in a mansion, or I should have money to buy anything I want in my life, or I should almost be a billionaire. And that's, of course, totally not true. By Portuguese terms, I'm kind of middle upper class. A lot of people live with a lot more than I have, than what my parents have. And it's interesting to see also the myth that we see from one side and to the other, and to see that I had one single story of them, but they also had one single story of me. And just being together was very important for both to understand the differences and to strive in bridging the gaps that we have in the opportunities that were provided to us, and in the non-opportunities that weren't provided to us. And so this was the first time I understood, like, there are some real problems going on in the world. There's some real and pardon my language, some real shit going on. By then, for me, the big shit was poverty. Throughout the years, of course, I understood it's not only poverty. There's hunger, there's gender equality, there's climate change, there's biodiversity, there's justice, there's corruption. There's so many topics that are totally not okay, and we shouldn't conform to what it is today, and we shouldn't understand the world today as it should be tomorrow. And so then for me, it was a pivotal point to start exploring some more. And so what I did is right after this summer camp, I started volunteering and spending a lot of more time in different communities. My high school was basically going through sciences. In Portugal, we have like different areas, and the main one is science and technologies. So I went through science and technology. By the end of the high school, I understood, okay, of course, and that for me wasn't even a question. Of course, I'm going to do an undergraduate degree because my parents can afford to pay me an undergraduate degree. And so for me, since I had kind of a background from sciences on the one hand, because I really like math and I really like things to be organized, but on the other side, I was always very much into arts and into humanities and language and speaking and different cultures. And so in the end, what I felt like, okay, I'm going for economics, because in the end, that's the only thing I know zero about. And so I went to economics, and right on the first week of economics, what I did is I subscribed to all the associations that were there. Only one association replied back saying, okay, we want you as a volunteer. And that association was IASEC. Maybe some of you know IASEC. It's an international association that basically what IASEC does is it departs from the assumption that the idea of peace can be achieved if we all know each other. And for me, that resonated a lot, because that was basically what I understood back from that summer camp, is that if we know each other, we of course won't fight, and we of course will understand each other. And of course, there are still some differences between us and between our points of view, but at least we know each other and we'll cooperate and we'll go towards a common goal. And a lot of times war and a lot of times conflict arises from this lack of perspective from the other side. And nowadays we talk a lot about empathy. Yes, I guess it can be empathy. I also guess it's a lot more than empathy. It's knowing the other side. It's being there. It's not only being able to put myself on that side. It's really being there and understanding from that point of view where I stand from. And so IASEC was great for me because it was the first time I went to an organization that was so much corporate and with different tasks, and we will have different goals and we will go for anything. And IASEC was amazing. And through the faculty, I also was able to create my first company. It was a surfwear company, and our goal was we sell t-shirts. Then with the money we have from the t-shirts, we'll just go and provide people from disadvantaged communities the opportunity to surf and to experience extreme sports. And through that, we believe that we can take these people out of other problems like drugs, like criminality, like different paths of life that they might be going on through. We did like 2 or 3 parties. We sold like 20 t-shirts, and it was a total failure because I had to work on a call center for 4 months, earning 2.5 euros per hour, to be able to invest 800 euros in a company that went broke after 3 months. It was a great experience though. And right after that, I went to an association called Transformers. And Transformers was a project born out of Global Changemakers. And this project was basically a project believing that we all have a superpower. And by superpower, we mean a talent. And personally, I've never met someone with 0 talent. I always met people with at least one thing you are good at or one thing you're passionate about. And the belief that Transformers departs from is that if you have one talent and if you have problems in your community, that's pretty much all you need to solve the problems you have. If you, for instance, like breakdance, and you have some problem in your community related to people having the proper clothes or people having food or something like this, maybe you can do something like a battle. And in that battle, for you to participate or for you to join or for you to just show up, you'll bring clothes or you'll bring food. And with that, you can provide that to the neighborhood. And Transformers, basically what they did and they still do is providing people that are mentors, that are people that have this talent already developed, with the opportunity to mentor kids from communities all over Portugal in very different talents, very different superpowers. And I said breakdance, but we had photography, cooking, meditation, math, skate, surf, graffiti, rap, DJing. There were a lot of talents because people could apply with pretty much anything, just saying, okay, I have this talent and I want to work with kids to share my knowledge and to understand how can we as a group make a difference with our talent. And for me, Transformers was transformative. It was amazing because that's what led me after 3 years to apply for Global Changemakers for the Global Youth Summit in 2012. And for me, that was the second pivotal point. For me, it was an awakening because up until that moment, and back then I was in the third year of my undergraduate degree, I still didn't know what I was going to do next. My parents then couldn't afford to pay me a master's. And so I had to go to work or something to be able to afford the master's. I didn't even know if I wanted the master's. And I was in economics. And for me, the question of, like, are we enough or not, really started to go a lot in my head and to ring a lot in many different times. And what I understood when I was in the Global Youth Summit in 2012 in London, and I came back to Portugal, was maybe this thing that I'm doing as a volunteer, that I'm doing part-time, that I'm doing out of my day-to-day activity, which was studying, maybe this is what I want to do for a living. And just to get a check on the background, I was here. This was 2012. Portugal was going to a big crisis, a big economical crisis, still not recovering back then. Now we are recovering. Jobs were not there. And if there was one place where you were pretty sure you couldn't get a job or even a kind of middle paying job, was in social service, in social work. And on the other way around, the only place where you knew you still had a job and the only place where you knew you could have a good job was, and by good job I mean a good paying job, it's not even my definition of good job, it's a definition of society's good job, was, if you're from economics or management, just go for a consulting firm. And I had the grades for going for a consulting firm, and that was pretty much the plan for all my colleagues there. We are from economics, we are from management. Even if we don't want to do this for a living, we are pretty sure we'll get a job because we were in the best faculty of the country in terms of rankings and in terms of advertising and whatever. And so the A plan for everyone was go for a big company, go work for a consultancy company, and you'll be straight away earning more than the average person earns in Portugal. In Portugal, the average salary is 820 euros. And if you were going for a consultancy company, you'll get straight away around 900 to 1,000 euros. And this is the average for the country. And so my plan wasn't quite a good plan, I think, in terms of from the outside, but from the inside, it only made sense for me to be there. And pretty much what I did was I left faculty. I started working on some jobs to get some money to be able to work in Transformers. I went through a lot of different jobs. After 1 year, I was working in a neighborhood where I was working with youth unemployment, and I started a project in surf education, and which is nowadays Surf Plus Environmental Education, and that project is called My Destiny. And then I entered in this company which I work for today, which is called iMatch. And iMatch, what we do is basically work with innovators to accelerate innovation. And this is the part where nowadays I'm feeling that the point where I'm at for this question of are we enough is after my awakening from at Global Youth Summit and understanding, okay, this is really what I want to do for a living. The past has been kind of tricky in understanding how can I, in the company I work for today, which is a for-profit company and not working only for social purposes, how can I make a difference in a different place? Of course, we are only 14. We are a small team, but still, this is where I'm at today, and sharing that with you, because I also think it's interesting that after so many years where I felt like I really need to make a difference, I understood that iMatch was the place where I could earn the skills to make a difference. And nowadays I'm thinking it could be the right place to earn the skills, but it's not the right place to apply those skills to something that's worth my time and that's worth what I have. And a lot of times what I think is that it's not really the skills you have, is what you do with them. And I was in the Global Youth Summit again in 2016 as a peer facilitator. And back then it was again amazing to be in this different kind of bubble where everyone is motivated to make a change, to make a difference, to it doesn't matter what, to really go for it and to really make something better and make good better and make a better world. And it's also easy, and sharing my failures here, it's also easy sometimes when you're comfortable in a place, when you're earning good money, or when you're thinking, okay, I'm doing something that's important for the people I'm working for, and I still feel a lot of personal growth in the company I work for today. It's also very easy for us to let go with the flow. And when we notice it's been 3 years since I started working at iMatch, it's been 3 years in a short lifespan of 25 years. Of course, after 100 years, 3 years will be nothing. But for me nowadays, there's really this question of what's next. And at iMatch, I understood and exploring a lot on what do we need to do in the world, where what is the change that's needed, and where do my skills fit the best, and where do my passion does my passion fit the best. I really feel that that's something that nowadays we need to understand, and I myself need to understand what do I need to do next. And so next year, and by next year I mean 2019, I'll maybe go travel and meet again some of you global change makers and be inspired by you. I'll maybe start developing a lot more my destiny, the surf and environmental education project. I'll maybe go back to something like writing or photography or something like that. But now it's a real blank page on my side on how can we be enough, and how can we do something, and how can I make something different. And to sum it up, I'll just go briefly to your comments and go to the sum up, because then I want to go for your side and see here. Okay. And so no questions so far, but if you have some questions, please just shout out and I'll keep going through the questions and make sure I answer all of you and don't leave anyone with no reply. But to sum up, I feel that I have 5 takeaways from what I've been living. And the first one is this, and they are always a dichotomy between 2 things. The first one is either focus or experiment. And a lot of times we need convergence in our lives, like we are working with too many things and we need to focus. But more than that, I feel that what we need to do, and from the people I know around me that are really making the change, it's not so much about having a good plan and sticking to it for the long term. It's about having a long-term vision, but being able to apply it short term and to really experience and experiment a lot of things and to try it differently and to make sure that we go to the field instead of starting thinking but not ever going to the field. And this is my first takeaway, is really, if you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, or even 5 or 10 years ago, that what would I be doing today, I'm pretty sure that even if I could give you 10 different answers, I wouldn't arrive to what I'm doing today and to the place where I am today. And that's the reality we have today. And that's, for me, it's a huge opportunity to explore instead of panicking or having the fear of missing out, because we really need to do something different. And the only way for us to figure out how to do it better and how to be enough, it's to experiment and to do different things and to make sure we evaluate on what we are doing and to make sure that next time, whatever we do, we do it better and you do it in a better way. Secondly, a lot of the way we think about the world, and by we I mean the Western society, I think, and Portuguese society at least, and that's the part where I can talk about. A lot of what we do is about predicting and then planning for that. So when we are thinking of what to do next, we predict it and then we plan what we should do to arrive there. And this strategy is flawed in many, many different ways. One, the assumptions that we have today are not holding for the long term. Two, all the plans that we have need always to be revised. And that's what happens when you put the plan on the field. You see that some things pretty much don't work and you need to figure out something different. And three, predicting the future and doing it in a way that, and planning for the future in that sense, doesn't account for what we did before and for what we are feeling now. And so a different kind of strategy I'm trying to work on nowadays, it's really to sense and explore something different next. And if you feel and if you are able to presence the moment where you're right now and what you've been doing, what was the things that you really loved about doing in life, and where were the moments where you were most happy, and where do you feel, where is your gut feeling going to, and then exploring. As long as you keep exploring and keep the doubts going, I'm pretty sure that in the end we'll have a better answer than just predicting the future and then planning for that. And at least for me, it's been working. The third part, and it's a lot related to this, for those of you who are perfectionists or who feel that that we need to do and we need to do it perfect. And if we need to do it perfect, you need a lot of time to plan, you need a lot of things to do, and you need to really do something great. And this is something that, from my personal experience, doesn't hold to what life is about. Because life is not about doing the perfect things and planning for that for 10 years. Life, in my opinion, is about doing things and trying to do them ever better. And so we have a saying in iMatch, and that's something that I brought to my own life, which says that done is quite much better than perfect. And a lot of times when we head for perfect, we don't get nothing done. And in the end, so if I'm thinking about the program for tackling poverty or youth unemployment in this neighborhood in Portugal, of course, I want to do it good. Of course, I want to keep some minimum standards of quality. But the only way for me to learn is really to go there, to experience, to start doing, and to learning from experience. And the really important thing is to always question what I'm doing and always making sure that what I'm doing is the best way in that moment to do that. And if we keep this mindset of always questioning and always trying to provide a better answer for the next step, as long as we keep walking, I'm pretty sure that in the end we are doing something better at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, or at the end of the decade. And doing is really important for us to, in the end, achieve change. Because change is not good ideas. Change is not great post-it notes. Change is action, change is reality, change is what happens in the field. And change only happens if we are in the field, if we are actually doing something. And a lot of times we get stuck in those plans, and the urgency, in my opinion, that we have for today's world to actually do something different, because there are so many things that for me personally don't make sense to be in the way they are today. The only way for us to make a change is to go to the field and to make sure there we work and we do something different and we do something better, and the next time we do it better, and the next time we do it better, and the next time we do it better. And this also has a lot to do with some barriers that we put to our own lives, and that will be the fourth takeaway, that this question of why doing it or versus why not, for me it's really not, and I said this already, it's really not about what you have, it's about what you do with it. And something that, and this was something that was actually taken from my Global Youth Summit in 2016, we did a privilege walk. And for those of you who were there, I'm pretty sure it was also a great and overwhelming moment for all of us that were there. And the idea of a privilege walk, for those of you who don't know, is really to put everyone in a line and then asking a set of questions where the answer is either a yes or a no. And it being a yes or a no, it might imply a step forward or a step back. And this goes on for like 40, 50 different questions. And it could go like this. If you never had to worry about paying the fees to be able to afford the education that you have today, because your parents could afford it, take a step forward. And everyone in silence will go and take a step forward. If you never had to worry about war or conflict being at your door, and you never had to worry about being displaced because of conflict, take a step forward. And the people that had this kind of privilege will take a step forward. And this goes on and on for a lot of different questions. Of course, I only gave 2 examples, but in the end, there were so much disparities and so much inequality. And the thing is, all the questions were regarding something that we didn't control. All the questions were regarding something that I didn't strive for. If I had conflict or not knocking at my door, it wasn't due to me, and I could do nothing about it if I had this kind of conflict going on my door. If I had to be displaced, it wasn't because of me, never. It was just because of the condition I was born in. It was just because of external conditions. And that's what privilege is about. Privilege is something we don't control, but that we have in ourselves, that we have in our own lives. And for me, the idea of privilege really struck to me, and really, it was really something that for me, it was very, very important to try to understand more deeply, because not using my skills to do something about what I feel is wrong in the world, it's a huge waste of privilege. And I can understand that some people don't know they have the privilege. Like me, when I was 14 or 13, I didn't really know that I had that privilege, and didn't really know reality was so much different from what life had given me. But that privilege was really something that if I know I have this privilege today, not acting upon it, it's a selfish act. And not using what I have been afforded and the things I didn't strive for to make something different out of the world we have today and to create something better for tomorrow, it's for me a huge waste of the short time I have here in this beautiful world and in this beautiful life. And this for me was something that was a real life-changing moment to understand that. Forget about all the excuses you put on your in front of you, that this is not going to be perfect, this is not going to be the best plan, I don't have the best people around me, I cannot afford the resources, I cannot go for a foundation, I can't do it with X amount of things. But the thing is not about what you don't have. The thing is about what you have and what you do with what you have. And what you have, for me, and that's my privilege, it's totally enough to do something better out of my life than what I'm doing today, and what I would be doing if I would stick to the company I'm working on right now. And this arrives to my final takeaway, my 5th takeaway, which is, in the end, a lot of times this also goes with evolution. We start dependent, and by dependent I mean we need our parents to survive, we need people around us to survive, and we are really dependent on other people to strive and to be ourselves and to make something different. Then we achieve a state of independence, and a lot of people, like most of the people, take this step from being dependent on someone, on external factors, to being independent. And being independent, it's quite important, because then you have your own autonomy, then you are free to do whatever you want, then you know you can survive by yourself. But the ultimate state of our evolution is something that a lot of people don't take this step. And I recognize in my own life it's very difficult to take this step. And this is called interdependence. And this is more than being independent or than being dependent. This is, I know I can do it on my own. I know I can be independent, but the only way for me to achieve long lasting change is to be interdependent from the people I have around, is for change to depend not only on me, but to depend on what I build, the networks I have around me, and the networks that surround all my work. And to understand that I only, in the end, I'm only a piece in this puzzle. And if you want to change the puzzle that we have around us, it's really trying to understand how can we make this a better puzzle by being interdependent instead of being only independent. And a lot of times we don't take this step from I can do it my own to how can I do it with others. And this arrives to the final answer to the question, which is, for a lot of times I was thinking, am I enough? Can I do it? Can I make the difference I want to see in the world? Can I actually enact the change that I believe in? And this is the wrong question. The right question for me, and that's up for debate with you, of course, is, are we enough? Because as a society, as a world, at least I cannot believe that we don't have the things that we need to have in order to make a different world, and to make a world with no poverty, to make a world with no hunger, to make a world where I was born and the conditions I was born in don't influence in such a bad way the life I'm going to have. And if that's the world I want to believe in, then the only answer that I have today to my question and to the question that I put here in the table for this webinar of are we enough, is yes, we are enough. We are enough if we are together. We are enough if we can make this difference together. But we need to forget about the excuses. We need to forget about a lot of things that are holding us back. Because yes, we are enough, but we are not being enough today. We are enough as a potential. We are not enough today. We are not holding to the standards that we need to hold to have a world where all the problems we see around us, and by problems I mean the social and the environmental problems we have around us, this is not a world where we can be in. This is not a world that's up to our capacities as humans. This is not us being humans. This is us being something else. And I believe that the full potential of a human is really to make this difference and to make this change that we want to see, and to be able to make sure that the world we leave behind to the next generation is a world that we as a people, we as a generation can be proud of. We as a world can be proud of what we left behind. And that's pretty much it. And I'll just like to leave you at least with one question before I go to the Q&A, and to leave you 30 seconds to think about it, which is, are you being enough? Because the only way of us, and I'm looking to the camera because I think it makes even more sense. The only way for us to be enough, for us as a society, for us as a world, for the question for are we enough to be yes, is if we leave all the barriers we put in front of us behind, and we make sure we make the difference we want to see. And so the question for you, and I'm leaving you with those 30 seconds, is, are you being enough for the world you want to see? And now, to be sure that I don't leave you crying or something, the question, if you feel that the answer is not clear or if it's a no, then let's go to action. What do you need to do to be enough? What will you do today? What will you do tomorrow? Where will you put your hands on? And how will you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be? And this is not for the next year or for the next decade, it's really for the next day, for the next week, for the next month. What will you do? Thanks for taking the moment to think about it, because and it's interesting how time goes, because from all that I said, I think that what you've written down or what you thought about in these 2 minutes is more important than anything I said. And I'll go for the Q&A, but I'll just like to tell you that if you want to leave your contact there and to ask me any further questions or something like that, please make sure you leave your. I'll just try to let me just check one thing. Yes, I can leave my contact here, and you can reach me back whenever you want. If I can help with anything, please just say. And I'd really love to reach back to any of you that would like to chat about anything that I can help on. That's at least what I feel I also can share my skills on, and in a way that you can better use whatever I have to provide you with. And so as next steps, if you feel like I can be useful in anything, please just tell me, and please just reach out. Reach me through Facebook. In Facebook, I don't answer a lot, so it's better WhatsApp or email, and usually I answer a lot faster there. And if you want to leave before the Q&A, a really big thank you, and I'll say it in Portuguese because it makes even more sense. Muito obrigado. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for taking 50 minutes or 1 hour of your time to be here listening to me. I hope something that I said resonated with you and made sense for your life. And I'd really love to keep the conversation going, because of course the question will always be there. It's not something of today, it's something of every single day. So thank you, muito obrigado for your time. And now I'll go to the Q&A. Let's see. I see you've been quoting me. I'm feeling like an important person. Okay. How do you keep motivated? Gabi said, how do you keep motivated to go on when the problem seems so overwhelming? I'll try to be brief on the answers, because otherwise I cannot answer everyone. My late strategy on keeping motivated is try not to think too much. Is really, first, try to, if the problem is overwhelming, try to break it into pieces so that it's dealable, so that you can go each piece at each time and focus on each part of the problem, and to try to figure out all the priority of the problems. And then just execute up until the moment where you feel you can again do something about it and think more deeply about it. But a lot of times it's just, and I'm going through a phase like that right now, a lot of personal stuff going on, and a lot of even work related things going on, and I just feel like, okay, this is the path I want to go. I'm sensing I need to do something different next year, but I have some commitments to uphold here up until at least December in the company I'm working for. And so just no excuses, and do your thing and make sure you are doing it well. And Courtney also asked, how do you deal with the feeling like you are not doing enough when there's so much still to do in the world to create better societies? And that's a very, very interesting question. One thing I learned is, of course, I'm not enough alone. The only way to be enough is if we are enough. And so there's a lot of it, which is making sure you are doing your part and believing and trusting in what others are doing. And for me, it also implies that a lot of what I do needs to inspire others to make the change I want to see. And if they believe in the same as me, of course, moments like this make sense. And that's my strategy to be able that I'm not only doing my change in my bubble, I'm also expanding the wave of change to what I want to see. But a lot of it is just trusting. And I know it's difficult, but it's just trusting that there's a world out there, a good world out there. And for me, Global Changemakers, to be honest, is one of the reasons I trust the most, that the world is good and that the world is heading to something better. Because the only reason for communities like this to work is because there are people like you guys around. And that totally makes sense. For Gusti, you asked how did me and my team get fund to run our projects. Actually, we didn't get fund. We are still not funded. It's what we call bootstrapping in entrepreneurship, which is doing something with nothing. I'm not saying that's a good strategy, but for the moment we are at, which is quite... My destiny has been always like in the initial stages, since we don't have enough time to dedicate it to it. We are not running it in a proper way, and so we stick to doing just the basics. And for the basics, we just put our own money, and we are privileged enough to be able to do that. Of course, it's not a lot of money, but we are able to invest in short things we need, to make partnerships with others so that they can supply us with what we need. And the funding, for me, it's the next step, because the first part is really to prove, and I don't think in my destiny we are there yet, to prove that the problem we want to solve is being solved by the solution we are providing. And that there's at least a good hint that this is going on. Then we get the funding part, and we get the team part, and we get the scaling part together. But the very first part is understanding if what we are doing is really providing us with the change that we want to see for a world with my destiny. And in the end, that's a question we still haven't figured out. Then Kemo, you said, how do you cope? And I'm so grateful to have guys that I met in person. How do you cope with the people in the society when they have less regards for your ideals? How do you get the spirit to push on? And what means do you use to bring their hearts in line with your cause? Tough question to answer so briefly. I think that there's a lot of it that comes to respect and to understand that other people have different ideas than yours. And that doesn't mean that it makes sense to kill these people or to erase them from the earth. It's just that the point where they are departing from is not ours, and it's not mine. And a lot of times you can just push the other person's opinion, providing them with information. Because if you are departing from different facts or from different beliefs, because a lot of times it's not even facts, it's something that you heard someone saying and that you never checked the fact, making sure that you're on the same ground in terms of information. But then if they stick to their beliefs, that's their thing, and we need to respect it. And of course, a lot of times this means that they can go against you, and that they can provide you with bad moments in your life. But again, what I trust is that if this is what I believe, and if this is what a lot of people believe, then I'm doing the right thing by keep going on, and that's what I try to do in my life. And in terms of how can I bring those people or the people around to my cause, I think that, and I work a lot with innovation at IMETCH, and innovation happens at the fringes. So we are not going to convince the people that are convinced of the other thing we are convinced. We are not going to be able to tell them, come here and meet us. The thing is, we need to convince the people that are very close to us, but that are still not supporting the cause, or that are still not involved. We need to put these people in our boat, so that in the end, there's a lot of less people left. And that's what happens with innovation. Like the first person to, and I'm going to give you a dumb example, but the first person to get a smartphone, it was quite a poor smartphone. But the thing is, instead of being able to say to everyone that didn't have a phone, guys, there's the thing, and this thing is smartphone, what you need to convince first is the people that already have a phone. And then if everyone who owns the phone owns a smartphone, it will be easier for someone who doesn't own a phone to, when they own a phone, it will be a smartphone. And that's what happens also with social innovation, and this is proven, it's science, is really to, if it happens at the fringes, if we convince the next people or the people that are closer to us, and we provide them with the tools to convince the people that are even closer to them, then we can make sure that the change goes on and that the change happens in the long term. And some interesting statistics here is we only need 20% of the society to change for something. And if we can manage to change this 20%, what has been studied is that actually this 20% take care of the rest. So the thing is, we need to achieve this pivotal tipping point of change, so that then the rest of the society adopts our ideas. So in the end, it's not that many people. It's just 1 out of 5. Although in 7 billion people, it's kind of a lot. For those of you who need to leave, thank you very much again. But I'll keep going on the answers. If you want to stay for me to write down and to answer you. And Charlie said, thanks for the awesome words. And thank you very much, Charlie. In a world where there are so many problems and so much inequality, how do you choose where you should apply the skills that you have? Very, very interesting question too. You have great questions. I should have done only 20 minutes of talking and all the rest of speaking to your questions, answering to your questions. I guess, of course, there are scientific parts, and I really think that there's a lot to it that comes to science. Like, where are the places where we have the most skills gap for the kind of skills that you have? Like, if there's a place where, and let's say you are from marketing, where marketing is already being very well done, then you don't need people there. You need people in the other places where you need people with marketing skills. And so a part of it comes to science, but I also believe that a part of it comes to what you're passionate about. In my case, and I'm finding this more and more, environmental issues, and by this I mean climate change, climate justice, and protecting the shores and protecting the shore communities. It's something that for me I'm quite passionate about. And so I'm also already narrowing down to the things that I like and that I feel that I will be passionate about it, and then see how can I best fit what these people and the people I serve, how can I best fit their needs and make sure my skills are good for them. Again, it's a lot to do with experimenting. In the end, I can say whatever, but it's a lot to do with trying and making sure that the feedback is positive. If you feel like you're there and nothing is happening because your skill is not needed or is in oversupply or something, then just leave and it's fine. Although that's a big problem, though, it's not there that you will add the most value. Colleen said, we are trying to do media for development in order to address poverty. And so, Colleen, I'm also thinking on doing something like that next year. So I'd love to chat with you on that. So if you want to, just feel free to send me a text to WhatsApp or to email me. Courtney says that Sarah says, Diogo for press. I'm not sure if that's a great idea. And Colleen said, I think I'm doing something every day for your organization, something that can contribute to change. And totally agree on this. Colleen is afraid that she's also not, she hasn't invited that much people. I think you'll figure out in the end. Let me read the rest of it. The last recruitment talk we had last Saturday, only one person came. I think the reason why that happened is we only invited people 2 days before. Do you think there's still a chance that we can invite on Friday more people to attend? Okay. I really think that it's, and answering you, I really think that it's, if you've tested and it didn't work, then you need to change something. And a lot of times it has to do with, I don't know if it's the place, it might be the place, it might be the timing that you're announcing that you'll have a recruitment, it might be the networks you're tapping to. The trick here is to approach this in a kind of scientific way, which is try to see what could be all the factors that are influencing the reason for people not to attend. Try to, from your experience, understand which of those factors would factor in the most or not, and then test. Let's say you think the worst problem was that people had to go for a place that's on the outskirts of the place where you live, and that's too far for most of the people. Then try to do it next time on the city center. If it still doesn't work, then go for the second thing. Okay, it's not a problem of the place. It's a problem of the timing that I'm announcing the recruitment. So I announced 2 days before. Let's announce this 1 week before. Did it work? No. Maybe 2 weeks before. Did it work? No. And it's a lot to do with this. And then the third time, it's maybe the thing is the networks I'm tapping to. I already said this to all my friends, but I didn't expand the message. Try to see who else out there has the kind of audience that you have, and he's with the people or is communicating to the people that you'd like to have in your own recruitment. And if it's like that, then make sure that these people are on board with you and that they also communicate. So the thing is testing and testing and testing and testing and doing something different every single time. So I guess that's it. You don't have any more questions. And Shruti, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for being here with me. And this is kind of awkward because I'm always talking and I only see your writing. But I hope for those of you that I didn't meet, I hope to meet you soon or to chat with you. Feel free to ask me whatever that I might help on or that I might really give my hands to your work if it makes sense. And in the end, the question again that I would like to leave you with is, are we enough and are you being enough? And if not, what can you do? And try to ask this often, because if we ask this often, if we keep questioning ourselves, if we keep trying to look for better answers, and if we try to look for better questions too, in the end, I really believe, and that's my trust part of it, saying, I really, really believe that we can be enough. So thank you for being here, for watching, and I hope you had a good time. And I hope you have a great rest of day or rest of night or rest of morning or rest of whatever. And thank you so much. Muito obrigado for your time. See ya.